Preparing to live stream. Setting up your meeting. Done. Redirecting to YouTube. All right. And I think we are good. And what's interesting about this is I think it actually starts recording on YouTube before it says it's recording on YouTube. Because whenever I then go back and look at it, I'm always like, Anyway. So, Lori, I'm so excited you are here today for What If Wednesday. And if you guys have never been a part of What If Wednesday yet, basically what If Wednesday is what if XYZ was different, was better, was not even what I thought. It's what if anything. And we're just here to kind of dig in and discover. And specifically for us, where our religious beliefs have allowed us to live in a way that maybe isn't as yummy as we desire. So we play the game of what if. Well, what if this meant that? Now, I'm not saying that what I'm saying is true. I'm not saying that anything that we talk about here is absolute. All I'm saying is what if. And I would just invite you to tap into what goes on inside of your body when we start to talk about what if something was different than what we had believed in the past. And if it allows your body to feel more alive, maybe entertain that it could be a new truth for you, or a greater level of truth, or opening up something in truth for you to live a more fulfilled and happy and alive life. So today, Lori is here to play the what if game. So tell us, Lori, what do you want to unpack today?
So I would like to unpack and question and explore all the things about religion that I was taught as a child. So I was raised Catholic. I did, according to the Catholic religion, I did most of my sacraments like I was supposed to, other than get married in the church and then of course die. So I haven't done that yet, but we're coming up to that. I was raised Catholic. Every week on Saturday, we would go to church. I went to catechism like I was supposed to. And then at some point, I want to say after confirmation, I stopped going to confession. I stopped going to church. And when it stopped for me is when my mom stopped making me go to church after my brother died. So after my brother died, she went through this long period of time of blaming God for his death. And I didn't blame God for his death. And, I felt my brother's behaviors and actions were the root cause of why he passed. But I started questioning, like, well, why do we go to church every week? Why are we saying these prayers every week? And I felt like it was very rehearsed. It was memorized. There was not a lot of meaning behind it. We were just saying it because we were supposed to say it because that's what you did. That was part of the ritual, if you will, of what we're supposed to do. So where I started becoming dis-ease in it was, I feel that on one side, the way I was taught was that anything good that goes on in your life, anything great that happens to you, God is responsible for it. But then anything bad that happens to you, God isn't responsible for it. So I felt that, well, if he's only responsible for good, then why isn't he stopping bad? And why isn't it both sides? How is it only just one side? Because nothing is just only one side. There's so many facets to everything in life. So how is it when it comes to God that there's only one side? And I've looked for an explanation and I haven't been able to find a satisfactory one. The only thing that I've come across is, and I didn't realize this was a book, but the movie The Shack. they did a really great job of giving me not an explanation. Well, yeah, I guess maybe an explanation, but not that God is responsible for all the good, but he's also, not only is he not just responsible for all the good, but he's also not responsible for the bad either. And that it really drove home the importance of free will, that we're put on this earth and we are all given free will. We're born with it. But I still have a struggle because it's almost like I still haven't subscribed to that theory, even though I don't think it's a theory. It feels really good when I listen to it and when I ingest it and when I, mix it around in my head. But I still have, again, I think it's that Catholic brainwashing that keeps coming up that makes me feel like I shouldn't 100% subscribe to that shack theory. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I think that's a really great starting point because it just will unfold all these other questions that come from it.
Okay. So let's play, because there's three very distinct aspects of what you just said that I think we could probably spend a whole session on. So let's start with free will.
Okay.
Let's start there. Okay. Tell me your version, your understanding of free will. And remember, we don't know what we don't know. And what we're doing here is allowing ourselves to entertain that what we don't know is going to fill in some gaps when we know it, right? So there's no wrong answer. There's no mistake. There's no right answer even, because we're playing the what if game. And the importance of just speaking out whatever comes up is your subconscious is saying, this is what we believe. And then once it comes up, then the conscious mind can go, how does that belief, how is that working for me? And even if it worked in the past, it may not be working for you now. And so there's no wrong answer and there's no right answer. We're just playing what if. So when you think about free will, how do you understand that concept as of right now?
So my interpretation of free will is that we are born with all the rights that a human deserves. And what that means to me is we are born with the right to love and to be loved. We are born with the right to make our own choices and decisions. And the consequences of those decisions are us. That falls on us. We have the responsibility of bearing those consequences because we made them. The fact that we are able to make these choices on whatever it is. I choose to go to this grocery store or that grocery store. I choose to choose this type of healthcare as opposed to that type of healthcare. I feel that that's our alienable right as a human being. Full choice. I feel that the right to respect that, for that right to be respected, my choices to be respected, and for me to respect other people's choices is part of that. I think it gets blurry when we don't. I think it gets blurry when we feel that we should put our ideas on somebody else, because that's going against free will, right? That's not, you have the right to feel that way, but to have the right to actually manipulate and try to coerce somebody out of their thinking or out of their choices into yours, I don't feel that is a human right. I don't feel that is part of free will. So basically, for me, free will boils down to choice in all facets of life. It could be anything that we're talking about.
Okay, cool. So now, remember, we're just playing a game.
Yeah.
What if you unknowingly totally just contradicted yourself? What if?
Probably.
Because check it out. We have free will to do anything we want, but we don't have free will to convince anyone of what we believe.
But hold on, let me absorb that a little bit more. Okay.
I have free will to choose whatever I want.
Right.
but I can't choose to try to convince anyone of what I believe. So I have free will to choose what somebody else thinks is okay to choose, but I don't have free will to choose what somebody else thinks isn't right.
Yes, but I think it becomes more from the perspective of I can feel however I feel. I can want people to do whatever I want, but do I actually have the right to impose that or try and manipulate that? Does that make sense?
Sure. So how come I'm not allowed to manipulate?
Well, you can. It doesn't make it right, though. It doesn't mean that you are giving people free will. You always have the right to do something, but it doesn't make it the right thing to do. Right?
So
I have the
who
right
decided?
to murder somebody. If I choose to murder somebody, that's my right to do so, but that doesn't make it the right thing to do.
Okay, so who decides what the right thing to do is?
I think it's that's hard, because if you're talking about like law and order, it's not, it would be utter chaos if people just went around murdering each other, right? So at some point you have to have law in there. There has to be when a collective in society comes up and decides, well, that's getting iffy too. It's very blurry. It's really hard to say.
Okay. So then how do you determine if it's free will or not, if it gets blurry?
Well,
because at what point in time, sorry, go ahead.
Is it, do you perceive that being free will for yourself? Maybe that's the answer, or the general theme.
So then if I get to decide what's free will for me and you get to decide what's free will for you, then who decides if they get to control my free will based on their version of free will?
I guess if you were saying, imposing your free will onto me and it didn't coincide with my free will, I think that you can have a discussion or you can have a situation, but also communicate that this is not okay with me, and then everybody stand back within their own boundaries. Does that make sense?
So if I believe
I don't know what the right answer
no,
is.
and this is what's so cool, because we believe that we believe things, and we believe that we know why we believe things, right. But when we start to get questioned like this, we go, why do I believe that? And this is what's so powerful, is because we don't even realize that we don't know why we believe what we believe. Okay, so let me just throw out this example. If I believe that dogs will kill any child under the age of 2.
Okay.
Because when I was 7, now I'm totally making things up. I'm just so that everyone knows, I'm totally making something up. Because when I was 7, I watched my baby sister get killed by a dog when she was 2. So in my mind, I have decided that all dogs will kill babies that are 2 or younger. So I go on this full-fledged around the world campaign to basically eliminate all dogs, because nobody can control if a dog is around somebody who's 2 younger or older. So I'm just going to campaign, and I'm going to tell everyone, because I have the free will to tell everyone.
Right.
And I want with my whole heart to convince you that we should get rid of dogs because they kill babies under 2. So do you see why we need to get rid of dogs? Because we're saving human lives by getting rid of dogs. And And my greatest desire to convince you and manipulate you into my campaign is rooted and grounded in wholehearted love for human babies under 2. Where do we draw the line?
For me, where I would draw the line is, I hear you. I don't agree with you, but you're entitled to your opinion, and I respect your opinion. But that's where we're going to end the conversation, because for me, that would be
Okay, cool. And then here's Sally over here, who maybe isn't as mature as you. And she doesn't understand free will and the ability to not be manipulated. And Sally goes, oh my gosh, I want to save dogs, or I want to save humans too. We should kill all the dogs. Right. Now I've convinced Sally that what I'm doing is right. And then Sally jumps on my bandwagon, but you don't agree. So now I, according to your understanding and your definition of free will, I have imposed my will onto Sally's free will, and right. I should be wronged for imposing my free will onto Sally's free will, but Sally jumped on my bandwagon. So how can I be responsible if Sally's immature to jump on my bandwagon? Now, where do we draw the line?
I feel like at that point, it's none of my business what Sally does, or if Sally chooses to get on the bandwagon, that's for Sally's choice. That's Sally's free will. For me in my bubble, that's because I'm just staying inside me at that point, and not that's Sally's choice. But Sally is exercising free will, just like you are, just like I am. We're all interconnected in working our free will, just not with each other. Does that make sense?
So let's go back to the right choice and the wrong choice that you were talking about before, because it would be a wrong choice to let free will run rampant without restrictions of what's acceptable free will, like running around killing people. Well, kill dogs, kill people. If I have free will, right? Mm-hmm. And if you're saying, no, mind your own business, let somebody else have their own free will. Where do we draw the line if it's people instead of dogs?
Well, that's the confusion part. That's where I've always been stuck. That's where it's like, at what point is somebody else's idea of what is right and wrong not correct? But it's not correct for someone who doesn't disagree. You know what I mean? Or it's correct for someone who is really believing that that's the way it should be. And I've always had trouble with that, because it's such a gray area and it's such a push-pull type situation. How do you make it so we all could live within the same world without having discord in those types of situations? I've always struggled with that, because I've seen both sides of it.
Yeah. And so let's go back to the garden.
Okay.
Right? God said there's 2 trees. There's the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, and there's the tree of life. Right? So if I have a knowledge of good and evil, it's the opposite of the tree of life.
Right.
When I have knowledge of what is good and what is evil, it is the opposite of life. And if I'm given free will by God, which equates to life, I cannot have a knowledge of good and evil, because I'm either free or I'm not. I can't be kind of free. I can't be, well, you can be free up until 10 feet. You can be free 6 degrees to Kevin Bacon. You can be free in your country. You can be either I'm free or I'm not free. There's one or the other.
So, okay. So, and I'm not sure I heard this correctly, but this is what I heard is that if you are in life with God, right? The tree of life, and you are experiencing free will, then there is no right and wrong. It's always, you're always centered in the life, in the, in the free will. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And let me just give a little caveat to that. There's two parts of us. We have a human part and a spirit part. We're 100% human and 100% spirit. Jesus came to give us the example of who we are. He was 100% God and 100% human. We're made in the image of God. God and Jesus are the same. So 100% spirit, 100% human. From the spiritual perspective, love is unconditional. There's no condition. It is the tree of life.
Okay.
Yes.
Yep.
No right or wrong, unconditional, love, 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 love. And simultaneously, there is an awareness of good and evil. And we're going to shift the understanding of it just a little bit to fit into the paradigm to create ease, right? Because if I have dis-ease, if I'm not free. So if I'm looking for the tree of life, the freedom, then I should be looking for something that relieves the, right? To allow me to live.
Yes.
With this space of the fullness of me, right?
Yes.
Now, Paul says everything is permissible, unconditional tree of life, but not everything is beneficial. Human tree of knowledge of good and evil, right? So, for example, if I desired not to go to jail, I could kill somebody. But if I desired to not go to jail, it wouldn't be beneficial for me to kill somebody.
Right.
I'm free to do it, but it may or may not benefit me.
Right.
Yes.
Correct.
There's consequences, and there's positive consequences or negative consequences. There's the consequences that I desire, and there's the consequences that I don't desire. Free will says I'm allowed to do whatever I want, anything I want, whatever I want.
Mm-hmm.
Love says, but I don't have to. Right?
Hence the
Love
choice.
says I can exercise self-control to not do the thing based on how the circumstance and the situation around me would unfold in a beneficial way.
Right.
Yeah?
Love is choice, is what I hear you saying.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Love is free choice to do it or to not do it.
Right.
Permissible, beneficial.
Right.
Permissible, maybe not beneficial. And until we can separate the fact that there are laws of the spiritual and there are laws of the human, until we can separate those and recognize what they are and allow them to integrate and live in it simultaneously, we will always have dis-ease, because the dis-ease is basically the indicator. Lori, there's more. There's more for you to live in. There's more abundance to have, right? Jesus said, I came to give you life, life being the awareness of your spiritual self that says, there's nothing that can separate you from God. And if you choose something that's not beneficial, however, you're not going to get the same results, right? Based on the condition in which we're in our human.
It's piecing together. So when I'm looking
Yeah.
away, I'm a visual person. So I'm looking at what's going on in my head, like how these thoughts are filling in.
Yeah.
So based off of, again, I'm going back to the shack because it really
Yeah.
it felt so yummy. You know, it felt so good after it just put so many things into perspective. So based off of what you're saying, I hear you saying is free will is love, it's spirit. We could do whatever we want. It's human is conditional. It's consequence. It's I forget the other word. It just went out of my head. But if we always stay in free will, anything on the human side, that's just noise, right? That's just noise. And if we're staying within ourselves, in alignment of ourselves, in alignment of love, it doesn't matter what would be right now considered dis-ease for me is doing. That's not going to matter because I'm always aligned within myself, within free will, within love. It doesn't, if I'm not doing that, if I'm in my own business and I'm just doing what, if I'm staying within free will, then it's nothing else is going to matter because I'm always going to be within myself. So any other outside influences or outside noise of everybody accessing their own free will is not going to matter to me.
Right.
Okay.
Right. And
that's what I say.
Yeah. And the dis-ease is the indicator that you have stepped out of your business, out of your alignment, out of your own free will of where you decide to focus, and you've stepped into someone else's business. Now, is that bad to do that? No, we came to the planet to navigate. We can't know that we're making a conscious choice and free will to mind our own business if we haven't had opportunity to mind someone else's business and go,
right.
Oh my gosh, the dis-ease, I'm minding someone else's business. Now I have choice as to where I want to give my focus, right?
Yes. So I think for me personally, when I didn't know what I didn't know, right? Until now you have brought it to my attention. So now I know when I have to pay attention to my instincts. I have to pay attention to the feeling that I have within myself on whether or not I am in somebody's business, because it always feels yucky to be, in my personal opinion, for me, it always feels yucky to be in somebody else's business, but I didn't realize that's what I was doing. So I have to come back and focus on myself again.
Yeah.
And where it always is.
Yeah. And this is the epitome of the first commandment, love the Lord your God, or you shall have no other gods before me. Mm-hmm. And then what Jesus said when the disciples were like, hey, here's the 10 commandments. Which one is the best? And he goes, oh, actually none of those. Because the one that is the best is love the Lord your God with all your heart, mind, soul, and strength, which we can equate to have no other gods before me, including what someone else is doing, because that's none of your business, right? That's none of any of our business. Because if we're focusing on and giving God our whole heart, mind, soul, and strength, we're in alignment. And so it is, oh, I'm feeling the dis-ease. I'm feeling the toil of eating off the tree of the knowledge of good and evil in someone else's business. I want to go back and eat off the tree of life, which is Christ in me. As I eat his body and drink his blood, it is life in me. And that is the external expression of the internal choice to love the Lord your God with all your heart, mind, soul, and strength.
Because you're ultimately loving yourself, because God is within all of us.
Holy Spirit in us, right?
Right.
Holy Spirit in us is the communicator, is the one that says, hey, you're in someone else's business. Hey, you're not, oh, okay, I'm going to bring my attention back to Holy Spirit and go, okay, Holy Spirit, right? Tell me what I need to be seeing, looking at, doing. What's appropriate and beneficial for me.
Okay.
Right?
So I'm going to just go back to the my upbringing of religion and where my dis-ease comes from. And I feel like my experience gave too much credit to God without giving credit to yourself at the same time. And also giving too much credit to yourself on the bad, and not giving, but at the same time, giving too much credit to yourself on the bad side, meaning like God does everything good, but he doesn't do anything bad. Well, no, he gives you free will. From there, you make the choice to do quote unquote good or bad, or in this case, it would be the choice to make a choice with the consequences of that choice. So it's like so that is just misguided information, if you will.
Yeah. And let's chat about this just for a second. I don't want to go too deep into it, because again, I would love to bring you back and have this conversation just on this one topic.
Yes,
right?
please.
But what if there is a purpose and a point for religion? And what if it's not wrong? And what if it's not misguided for itself? What if it got utilized incorrectly based on the fact that Jesus even said to the Father, hey, they don't know what they don't know. Forgive them, Father, for they know not what they do, right? So what if there's nothing wrong with religion? It's that we don't understand religion, and therefore we misuse it, which then, if we can look at religion as a beneficial thing that just got misused, now we can look back and go, okay, cool. Well, what was the value of that understanding and that what I was told? Because when we're immature, we need to be told, no, we need to be told, do this. We need to be told, don't run in the street. But as we mature, we get to have a different truth based on, okay, well, now you're older and don't run in the street. But if I'm not here to say don't, or if I'm not here to walk you across the street, then you never get across the street. So now I'm going to teach you the next rule. Okay, we can run across the street, but only when the light's green. Right. And so if we allow the truth that we live in, and this goes right back to everything is permissible, run across the street, don't run across the street, but it's not always beneficial. When I'm immature, I need to be told, don't run across the street. As I'm mature, I get to be told, well, you can run across the street, but only on a green light. Yes. So both are permissible, but one's beneficial and one's not beneficial. Because if the older, more mature child says, oh, I'm not allowed to run across the street, the light turns green and they're like, but I'm not allowed to run across the street, it's not beneficial.
Right. You won't get anywhere.
Yeah. And so recognizing that, because too often when we look at, oh, I was lied to, or I was deceived, and I'm not saying you specifically are doing this, I'm saying this is what we typically do, right? When we see a greater truth, right? It would be like that child going, all this time, my mom told me not to run across the street. If she had just told me I could run across the street when the light was green. But that child doesn't know that at this age, you wouldn't have been able to understand, don't run across the street unless the light was green, right? And so when we look back and we go, man, I'm so grateful that there was some really tight parameters for me that kept me safe until I could mature. And that is the disconnect with the understanding of religion, because we take religion as a truth instead of as an evolving awareness of our relationship with God.
And all of those things you're saying, I hear you, I absorbed it, and I've switched it around. The only part that I just want to make clear is that as I am developing this new consciousness, I feel those things. I just don't articulate them properly. Does that make sense? So I'm not blaming religion. I'm not blaming my upbringing. I'm just understanding it. And I don't think that, religion, it was meant just to deceive and manipulate and coerce people. It's just, they also have a misunderstanding. It's all about interpretation. And I just,
100%.
I'm understanding that. And I'm completely on board with you. Because this is all new information that I am digesting and trying to assimilate, I'm just not articulating it as well as I am as I'm thinking it in my brain. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
And that's why I kind of said that
yes,
this might not be you, but typically, because
right.
I will tell you, I so align with Paul because I was Saul. I was the ultimate Pharisee. And then when I started getting conscious, I jumped on that bandwagon of getting super angry at the church and going, why don't they know this? And why aren't they teaching this? And la, la, la. So I swung the pendulum all the way over. So I know that there's people out there who have swung the pendulum over. And so what I want to just like allow for is for people to see there is an absolute understanding and compassion for being angry, thinking that how you were taught was wrong, when if we can allow ourselves to settle into, oh, it's just more, and it's not wrong, and it's just more, because maybe somebody watching this is going to watch this and go, oh, yes, what Lori is saying, that Lori, not this Lori, what that Lori is saying, yes, I'm mad about that too, right? And then we invite them into something else, right? Which is kind of why I gave that caveat, because depending on somebody's level of maturity, could have heard what you said and gone, yeah, I'm with Lori. She thinks that her religion is wrong, and so do I. Right? We want to just allow, because again, how you say it and how someone else interprets it, that's where some of the disconnect comes from.
Yes.
When we don't allow for an expansion of maybe, what if it wasn't wrong, it was just misguided? What if it actually had a really cool place, right? So
yes. And I feel that anybody that's going on this path of just questioning, or the what ifs, and they get to the point where they're just angry, you are 100% correct. And you need to be angry. You need to feel those emotions. I think where the issue comes in is if you stay there or not, right? I was angry. I had to move through it because I couldn't stay in a place of anger. It's such a disservice to myself and to anybody around me. And so yes, everybody should be angry. Absolutely. Get angry. Just don't stay there. And I think we're saying the same thing, just from different perspectives.
Yeah. And I'm just allowing anyone listening to hear both perspectives.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And same here. I feel the more we talk about this, Lori, the more I feel so much more grounded within myself. I feel like this pull is just pulling to the center of my being right now. And I'm so happy that we're having this conversation. Thank you.
Too. Yeah, because I know I went through a really, really long time, 3 years of feeling completely alone in my unfolding of my religion and this new awareness of like this true intimate relationship with God. And so my hope is to allow these conversations to be found by people who maybe haven't had to go through it for 3 years, right? Maybe they find it in year 1 and they don't have to necessarily suffer the way that those of us who went through it a little bit longer. Right. So I'm so grateful for you coming on. I'm so grateful for your willingness to have this very vulnerable, very authentic, very like let your whole world show conversation for somebody else, and the service that you're providing for somebody somebody else struggling the way that we both have, is such an amazing gift. And I'm just so grateful and thankful that you would be willing. And so if you would be willing to do this again, I would love to have you back for another What If Wednesday.
Yes, I would love that. And I just want to thank you, Lori, so much for making me feel like you're such a safe person to have this conversation with, because it's not just about me opening up myself, it's about you providing the information as well, and just the platform to dive into these really difficult, embedded in our bones types of conversations. And I can't tell you how much I appreciate that, because not only is it just going to make me feel more content and more aligned with myself, but that's only going to spill out into the world. So I don't even know. I'm not very good at articulating my feelings. That's just not something that is a strong point for me, but I can't even tell you from the depths of my bones how much I appreciate you. And I'm so grateful for this outlet that you have given me. So thank you.
Yeah, girl. And seriously, I think you just rocked articulating your feelings. So guys, if you're watching this, let Lori know that she rocked articulating her feelings, because to think that you aren't articulating your feelings well, when you just absolutely articulated your feelings and nailed it, just by showing up and being you and being willing. So yeah, girl, grateful for you. Yeah. All right. So we will see you next time on What If Wednesday.
Thank you so much, Lori. Have a fabulous day.
Bye-bye.